Welcome to Natural Habitat Adventures, Daily Dose of Nature. I'm your host, Sunny Vanderstar. Today's topic is conserving wildlife in South Asia, what's working? And it will be presented by our fabulous expedition leader, Arpita Dutta. Arpita, it's always great to hear your voice. I can't wait to hear what you have to say about this topic. I'm going to turn it right over to you.
Thank you so much, Sunny, and thank you everyone for tuning in today. So, like conserving wildlife, but I think nowadays, now in the crisis time, what we are living in, this is something we all are thinking about, and all the topic when we think about environment, ecology, it's converging into conserving. So thinking about that, I thought to bring up few of the animals which need high focus in conservation. But before that, something continuously happening on our planet, which is some good, some bad, but which also comes with the natural disturbances which are caused by the force of nature, including weather, geology, and the biological fluctuations. No matter what, after the devastation, whatever the natural causes are, a healthy ecosystem have an amazing ability to come back or bounce back. But when it is an unnatural disturbance, especially when human actions are involved, and when we contribute something to the nature, it is an irreversible damage in ecosystem what are seen today, like clear cutting, habitat fragmentation, pollution, illegal trafficking, trade are continuously affecting the ecosystem. Even, of course, there are other anthropogenic factors as well which are working. So conservation is like to preserve or to protect the animals and the plants and their habitat. But before we start conservation, there is one sentence which I do believe that we need to conserve, and we have to put effort in conservation because we are the reason for which the conservation we need to do. Okay. So when we talk about conservation, there are ways where we can do it, like the environmental part, where we have to conserve that. Then the animal conservation, of course, which is need to be focused on the animals, the marine conservation, and the human conservation. Human conservation also comes because we have so many indigenous people in this world, and they have so much knowledge about their ancestors, how everything brought up, than apart from the city life. I think that we need to conserve, and especially if I talk about India, there are many places, many tribes who still work with Ayurveda, like based on plants and the thing which they get from nature, they treat. If we get to know about them, I think that will open up a whole new world for the medical development. Anyway, but why do we need to conserve? Why do we need to speak about it? Here is a complete red flag. Why is it required, and especially nowadays? So this is the IUCN Red List of the threatened species. Imagine in this world, there are more than 41,000 species which are threatened with extinction. And let me tell you, this is only 28% of all assessed species. I mean, imagine about the rest. And too many things must be happening which we don't even know. And with that, and being India, I'll mostly speak about India and a few of the subcontinent, few of the neighboring countries. But India is one of the 17th megadiverse country. So being the landmass and the diversity, you can imagine that makes it so huge. Like the density of the population and the diversity of the species of plant and animal is huge. With that, India has also 4 biodiversity hotspots. So with that, when we think about conservation India, the forest are day to day, it is fragmenting, but people are understanding. So here, the transformations are happening, but in a very slow pace. And at the same time, the deforestation is also taking place, especially the open forest land are getting affected the most. But in India, conservation actually started long back. I'll just try to share a small story, which till date we do follow, and I think in most of the areas where it has been taken by the women, the tribes out there. In 1970, there was a movement called Chipko Andolan. Chipko means hug. Andolan is the revolution. So what has happened, there was an industrialist who wanted to cut trees for the sports good. And these women actually took, that area, that whole area with women and children. They have started hugging every tree and stopping those people to cut down the trees. This is not known literally that whether they have stopped it because they understood the ecological or the essential things of the ecosystem, are also because the women out there in the village, and especially in that time, they have to walk a long way to get the firewoods and even drinking water. So if that patch of the forest is gone, their life would be more difficult. So no matter what, if it is their necessity of their understanding, but that movement actually stopped. Until date, people do follow that Chipko Andolan, that hug a tree. So with that revolution which has been taken, India is now standing with almost near about 1,000 protected areas. Into that few national parks. Yeah. So the thing is, when we talk about India, it's of course a huge country, and out of that, including 565 wildlife sanctuaries, 100 conservation reserves, 106 national parks. I think too many things in a separate way. There are segregation of the way of protecting it, but they are protecting the land to conserve the wildlife as well as the habitat. And also newly added, there are 49 Ramsar sites to it as well. Okay, so before getting into the species, let me tell you, I've already taken a lot of species. I don't know whether I'll be able to finish it on time or not, but I have taken those species which are less than 1,000, which are living in this world right now. So you can imagine that how critically endangered those species are. And to start with is this beautiful animal from the crocodilian family is the gharial. They belong from the distinct genus and the species of the Grabialidae family because they look very different from the rest of the crocodile because of their longer snout what they have. And they are one of the largest as well. They can grow up to 18 feet. And so when we talk about gharial, previously it was known that they have actually lived before the dinosaur, but which is more on the Thoracosaurus time. But in the new study, it says they are very young population which just evolved 30 million years back. And the distribution, the previous distribution was quite a spread out, but now restricted to only few fragmented places. The largest population are found in India and then in Nepal. And of course, a very individual records have happened in Bangladesh and Pakistan. So the gharials are fond of deep, fast-flowing rivers and prefers to occupy in the junctions and the bends where the flow is little settled. And they love this riverbank. You can see that how they are lying and basking, especially for the adults. They use like mud flats for basking and a good gradient mud flat for their nesting thing. So way back to the population in 2000, year 2000, there were only fewer than 200 were left in India, and in Nepal it was around 130 individual. Can you imagine? Together it was only 330 or maybe 350. So 12 years back, then the conservation thing actually got, hit the mind to the people, to the wildlife biologists, that something needs to be done. But before that, gharial had some speciality which make them very unique. The male gharial actually grow a snob type of thing on a knob near the snout, near the end of the snout. And they get mature around from 10 to 15 years, and they live up to 50 to maximum 60 years. But during that time, there's though they become sexually matured at the age of 10 to 15, but they're a bigger male to rule over. So hardly unless and until you reach at the age of 20 to 25 and don't get that huge snob on your snout, the female kind of don't give that attention, or they cannot fight with the other male to choose their mating pair. This is a female over here without that knob over here, and the hatchling comes out within 60 to 75 days. And when the hatchling comes out, they just try to be on the mud flat. And especially what is happening, like why they are becoming threatened, is the alteration of the habitat. Throughout, the gharial are very susceptible to pollution. First thing is that. And second is, because of the change in the river course, sometimes wherever they are staying or wherever they are nesting, the flood or the course of river changes, and of course all the nest or the egg just flushes away with the water. And then the deposition, of course, is also there. And implementation prey-based due to increase of intensity of fishing. There are a lot of their staple diet is fish. You can see the snout. They are exactly the fish hunters. They keep in the flowing river. That's why they prefer a fast-flowing river. They just keep their mouth open when the fish is moving nearby. They just snap it, just like a slingshot. They don't move, they just snap it. And because of increase in fishing, like overfishing, it is difficult for them to get the food, number one. Second thing is they get entangled in the fishing net, and they have to breathe. They are lungs breathers, so they need to breathe out and they need to eat, and they can't do either of them because their mouth get entangled with the net. And during the dry months, when the water level of the river is down, they plant, that's livestock coming and drinking. So that makes, a lot of pollution in the river, which affects their habitat. And water pollution is, of course, there because mostly the river areas where people live, they use the river as their day-to-day use, like washing their clothes, taking a bath with soap, and lots more other stuffs. So that is very inhabitable place for the gharials. And of course, harvesting of eggs and poaching for the use of its body parts and medicines, which is traditional, but it is more reported from Nepal and occasionally in India, but nowadays it has reduced a lot, thankfully. So After all this trade, and after only we were left with 330 gharials, the conservation things have been started. So imagine, while the gharial stood, 259 gharials were found in India in 2020, and the number stood, stood at 236 in 2021. It is the change in the population, or the change in their habitat or the breeding program is very, very difficult to come up with the proper assessment of this gharial. And once they release, it is very difficult to monitor as well, because the river systems are huge. And over here, so when this thing has happened, there were few organizations like WTI or Gharial Conservation Association with the Forest Department have a continuous survey along all the rivers, all the rivers in Nepal and India where there have been seen. And they have, like, the first time the survey team spotted both male and female, indicating the congregation and the possible nesting site. From there, this ex situ breeding program has started, like collecting the eggs and bringing them out and incubating outside. And then when the hatchling comes out, few are released back to the wild, and few are kept under the care of this breeding program. So with that, in 2014, first the captive bred hatchlings were released, but the first thing which came to their mind is protecting them. So there was a continuous monitoring, but it is so difficult. Then the government actually came up with the community conservation. That means involving the community people, especially the fishermen and the inhabitants around the river area, where they can help these babies, or whenever they see it, to report back to the breeding program project area. So that's where they started gathering a lot of data. So while releasing it, they are marked, like all the gharials are marked with a number like this, and so that they know that this has been released. Sometimes they can fall as well, but this is how you know that this gharial has been breeded from the center. And that's how the population started growing on. And now we do have around 600 gharials in the wild, individuals in the wild, the adults. So that is increasing, but in a slow pace. But hopefully that will reach to the next level in near future. And in near future, we might come across the gharial with their babies freely moving in the wildlife areas. Because right now, because thankfully to the government, they have declared those areas under protected areas, because so there is no human involvement directly in those areas, so that they can survive freely out there. With this gharial, and we will come up to our next next species, which is the northern river terrapin. It is also famously known for Batagur basca with its Latin name. This northern river terrapin, sorry, I'm so sorry. my throat, my cough is not going at all it's been months, so I'm really sorry. So turtles have evolved around the late Permian epoch, which is around 300 to 250 million years ago. And this Batagur basca live an amphibious life. They are reptile, but of course they live partly on land and water. But they are terrestrial, but highly aquatic, both in freshwater and in brackish water. They live in the tidal areas. You can see the mangroves, the root of the mangrove here. So, and perhaps the fresh water, but they prefer I think they prefer the fresh water, but they move towards the estuaries, which is almost 50 to 60 miles to reach out the sandbank at the estuary when in their breeding ground. But their population, sparsely where they belong. They belong, before that, I should say that Batagur-Baska conservation story is nothing less of a cross-border drama. I mean, a lot of character, a lot of topic, a lot of, effort, and a lot of human involvement. And of course, the fooling way, how the animal fool the people to some extent, everything is related. So that's why I call it a drama. So yeah, until 2007, and this area where it is pointing, these all are the islands of Sundarbans. So this is the largest delta in the world, which actually has the Brahmaputra and Ganga river delta. It is known. And it is more than actually 3,900 square miles, and a part of Bangladesh is also here. I mean, Bangladesh has 2/3 part of Sundarbans. India has 1/3 part of Sundarbans in that. So in 2007, the turtle was thought to be distributed from Bay of Bengal in India, here where my cursor is, and and through Malayan Peninsula to Sumatra and Cambodia. So here is the habitat where it lives, which is like a mesh, of the Sundarbans. And the mangroves are like a hinge. I mean, from who is there inside the forest can see outside, but from outside, it's like a mesh. You hardly can see something out there. But this is how the habitat they live on the estuary side. And so here, what has happened? So though this Batagur-Baska had been thought that it is critically endangered long back, which has been released by the IUCN status, but their number were ranged between 500 to 2,500. So that's quite a number people were not even looking at. But in 2007, something happened, where Peter Pashang, an Australian turtle zoologist, published a research on a DNA basis, like DNA molecular basis, providing that the southern and the eastern population are genetically different species. Imagine. And the turtle found around India and the neighboring countries retained as the title of Batagur-Baska, which is the northern river terrapin, and the other species found in Malaysia, Cambodia, Indonesia, and Thailand were characterized as Batagur aphids, which is the southern river terrapin. So this I think this Batagur-Baska, this limited range in mangrove of the eastern India and Bangladesh, and this discovery actually made the entire international turtle conservation community started panicking, because then nobody knows what the number is about to come. And overnight, this Batagur-Baska was declared as ecologically extinct. And let me tell you why. So as soon as they got the news of this split, that in India, the Discovery sent the team TSA, which is Turtle Survival Alliance I'm associated with, to the mission to find evidence of Batagur-Baska across the coast of Orissa and many around the place of those islands where it's over here. Parallel researchers were sent to Bangladesh for the same mission. And the mesh of Sundarbans were very difficult, as I mentioned, to penetrate most of the time. Then the team took help of the local people. Just see it everywhere. Wherever we talk about conservation, the local community is one of the most important factor which works to preserve. So yes, here is the same thing. So the India team came back empty-handed every time. But the Bangladesh had fortunately few success. They found some they found some of the patagors which are kept as a pet in the village's pond. So actually what has happened, sometime it could have been like there were some hatchlings or there were some species and people don't know what to do and they have just released those turtles in the pond. Maybe that's the reason why they got it. And but in India, after the several negative results, Batagor Baska was declared ecologically extinct. But the TSA India director, who is an aquatic wildlife biologist, was not ready to give up. Thankfully, he didn't. He gathered paper from the forest department since from 1990. Actually, during 1990, West Bengal Forest Department were collecting olive ridley turtle egg for the breeding program. And over there, it is written that they have got few egg which they couldn't identify because they didn't resemble the olive ridley eggs. So, but they kept the egg, they incubated, and after a few days, when the olive ridley hatched, those unidentified hatchlings were also out. But as they were not olive ridley and they couldn't identify, and in 1980s there are no much, not many communication system out here, and this is also in a very remote forest area. They have released them somewhere, which is not written in those papers, but they have released it somewhere. And while after learning that, our TSA director, he just suddenly that clicked that in Sundarban area of Bangladesh, people have released those hatchlings into the pond. So he felt the same thing, that the people must have released them same way in India as well, in that area. So then he put all the team and the forest department people to the local pond area to search for the Batagor Baskas. But suddenly, luckily, and in 2008, while he was there in that area, this is called the Shozne Khali camp, which is one of the protected area of Sundarbans Bioreserve. Over there, where the southern, you see the islands out there. While standing at the watchtower of Shozne Khali, and just like that, he was looking at the freshwater pond behind. And suddenly, with an immense surprise, he was that he noticed a black snout popped up from the surface. And if I have to go back a bit, this is the male and this is the female. So the male actually grow this jet black with the crimson red color during the breeding time. So thankfully, this snout actually popped up, and I can imagine that what was going through in his mind, because if something I would have come across like that I have seen a turtle somewhere, I don't know what I would have done. I would have without even seeing that who is watching me, I would have started dancing like crazy. But yeah, but we all are like crazy people like that, and thankfully he was as crazier rather. So then this lead to the beginning of the project. Without wasting a time, he went to the forest department and asked to check the water bodies, that how many turtles are there. So in that pond, there were total 30 number of northern river terrapin, 3 females and 8 males, and there were 2 juveniles. In the same year, 2 females were identified at Madras Crocodile Bank, which is in Chennai, which is in the southern part of India. They have been rescued during 1970 from a fish market. I mean, illegally they were trading that. So initially it was thought that one male from Sundarbans can be flown to that area to breed with those two female, but somehow the department was hesitant about it, and this thing couldn't happen. But for a while, this project, this all thought process went down, like was paused and was like in a total movement, you know, how the project was going. But in 2009, a disaster happened in Sundarban area, and a cyclone actually hit that area, which is named Ayla. And for over there, everything got flooded, and one male, I mean, more than 2 lakh people got, I mean, affected because of that. They have lost their homes, lives. But anyway, one male got away, and then the department panicked, you know, and triggered them to permit the conservation project. And from there, from there, the conservation project has started. And in 2010, TSA finally launched the breeding program. And a male and 2 female were released in a smaller enclosure, but the male was least interested. Whatever happened, they couldn't figure out, so they released another male. Imagine, when the next male joined that enclosure, there was a rivalry to impress the female, and that made them to mate with the female. And in 2012, on a full moon night, in March, the female emerged to the nest, and she laid 20 eggs, and followed by the other female, which laid around 30, which laid around another maybe 20 to 22 eggs. And in July, the team saw their first hatchling, which is 33 hatchling emerging from the nesting ground. Imagine what a happy moment that could have been. And from then till now, the breeding process have been happening, and now there are 350 Badagorbaska grown from only 13 individuals which were kept in captivity. And from there, this year in January, TSA with Forest Department has released 10 sub-adult northern river terrapins into the tidal river of Sundarban Tiger Reserve with satellite tagging. And right now we can monitor around 4 out of 10, and previously 3 went to Bangladesh side, and they have been again released back from there after all the research works have been done. So until date, 3 are under our radar, that where they're going. 1 has crossed almost 300 miles. Imagine. That's pretty fast, I believe. But yes, the conservation process are happening, and now we can say that there are from 13 individual getting to 350. Maybe in another 10 years we will at least reach out to 500 Batagorbaskas, and they would be living rightly, I mean, into the wild. Someday we will be seeing them into the wild in the rivers of India as well, India and Bangladesh as well. With this turtle, I have to bring another turtle. I'm sorry, 2 turtle, but of course this is another important species, because this is also critically endangered, but it shares a different story altogether, which is the black softshell turtle. And this black softshell turtle leaves, you know, they grow very big. Almost sometimes they can weigh up to 60 to 70 kilos, the bigger ones. But the funny part about this turtles are that their habitat was, not right now, their habitat was the Brahmaputra, this northeastern part of India, where Assam, it will be easier to make you understand where you get the highest population of the greater one-horn rhinos. Into the land of rhinos, that was their habitat. But soon in this Brahmaputra habitat, in the Brahmaputra Valley, hardly we get any like population of this critically endangered black softshell turtle. And here it is thought to be extinct from the wild. We have been working on this project because we got few populations in the temple pond. There were nothing in the wild we have recorded since many years, almost from 2014 onwards. But we have some populations which are there in the temple pond of Assam and few areas of West Bengal. I mean, in India's part, but both on the eastern side. These are like, they don't go, they are unable, I mean, they cannot go out from the temple. And here people see them as the avatar of Lord Vishnu. And they feed them what they should not. Like you can see the breads, and over here you see there are puffed rice and soya chunks, which is definitely because they are carnivores. Or they actually do a lot of scavenging thing. But yes, this thing has happened, and because we got the population there, and we can imagine that the nesting must be happening around that area as well, inside the temple pond. But you know, in India especially, to break the religious belief is the toughest thing, because no matter what happens, the religion comes first over here. And that made us, that was the most challenging part for us, because to make understand the temple authority that when we, I mean, let these bigger turtles be with you, we cannot take them out. But when the hatchling comes out, let us release it back to the wild so that they see a new world where they actually belong. So for that, a lot of incentivization program has started happening, a lot of awareness, like talking to the youth of the local people and conserving the habitat area of it. And the most thing is the Brahmaputra Valley, where I shown the picture, is dominated by the fishermen. And declaring those as the protected area, these fishermen home families need a sustainable alternative livelihood. So for that, we have started in Assam, in Northeast. They are wonderful weavers. So we have selected those fishermen community people, their house, I mean, in their house, their mother, their sister, their relatives, they do weave, and we started getting those scarves made, which is made out of this turtle motif. And we actually removed the middle person from the marketing thing. We directly contacted them with the owners who wants to buy, or to the platform where they can directly sell and they can earn more money if they are having this thing. So maybe the fishing, overfishing, or the pressure on the river of Brahmaputra habitat might get reduced. So it is difficult. It is always difficult to change the mindset of the older generation. So a lot of outreach programs, almost reaching out to like 25 to 30,000 kids to let them know about the speciality of the turtles and the habitat they have in that place. And let me tell you that Brahmaputra Valley has the highest density of turtle species. And talking to the fishermen out here and asking them about the information and asking them to help us to conserve these animals, giving training to the forest department that what they should do when they see the nest out there. And a lot of other conservation programs happen with the teachers association out there, so that they can teach the children all the time and bring us some solution to it. Did a lot of surveys in this area, and overnight, like staying in the river, I think one of the most memorable time I had in that place. And with so much of surveys and things, we have come across few of the individual, and with this outreach program, a lot of people got to know about the species. So they have called us and said that we have seen this turtle somewhere, and sent us the picture, and we saw that those are the black soft shell, and we started making a data on that. And this is from the temple ponds. Whenever they are laying, giving the nest swiftly, because there are so many predators like mongoose, dogs, and monitor lizards. So we rushed and we collect the egg, and after the incubation and stuff, this little hatchling, they just hatched on the same day in the morning. And I think those were the precious moments in your life when you actually see the life coming out. Is the best thing, I would say. And this way, we have kept a few hatchling with us into the nearby zoos, where they can be, grown up into a maximum size, and few hatchlings have been released back into the wild. And hopefully someday, if we can successfully run this project for another 4 to 5 years, we might be able to see this black soft shell turtle somewhere in the wild. So I'm really, really hoping for that. I always keep my finger crossed for this. Okay, enough with the turtle. And let me come with another a very cute little, oh, sorry. One thing I just missed out. So why? Because they are they are thought to be extinct from the wild, but in January 2021, because of all those records we got, though very minimum, but all the records, it has been uplifted by the IUCN as the critically endangered species. So that is really a good news. Yeah, sorry. Come back to the little fellow out here. You can see this is the pygmy hog. By the name, you can imagine the size, maybe. So they are the smallest wild pig in the world. It's only 8 to 10 inches height and 18 to 20 inches long, covered with brown coat and few dark hair. And you can see the small face, very cuddly face rather. I'm sorry, just looking at the picture is making me say that. They inhabit along the narrow strip of the wet grassland and the tall grassland in the plains of the rivers, and that is although in the foothills of Himalayas. And they feed on the roots, tubers, insects, rodents, and small reptiles as well. They get matured in around in 18 to 24 months with a lifespan of 8 years. Why I'm saying this? Because there where it actually differed. Initially, it was around the foothills of Himalayas, but now it has been only restricted to only this part of India, the eastern side, which is in Assam, and that is also in a very few scattered or fragmented areas. So the pygmy hawk experienced a severe habitat loss, and and it's thought to be extinct in 1960. Imagine that long back. And its habitat, and they need the tall grass to hide. And this is not only their nest, they are like a sleeping hole by the thatch of they make like a thatched roof on them, and they used to hide inside. Imagine if all the habitat is gone, this tall grass is gone because of a lot of other factors, then of course there would be a decline of the population. And after after a decade of some information which were coming, but there were no chance that we could get, I mean, the conservationists who are working on this could get any information on that. So it continued till almost late 90s or late 90s. So the pygmy hawk conservation, which is called PHCP, the Wild Speak Special Aid Group of IUCN, the Union Environment Ministry jumped into to bring back the species in the wild, because and it has been initiated in 1971, and the reason was, on those fragmented areas there were 2-3 records which have been logged, or I would say the information have been found that the local community got to see it because they went for hunting. Though it is very unfortunate, but at least the news of its presence were there. So somehow they couldn't manage anything for a longer period of time. But in 1996, there is a in the same area, or in the same area, 6 hogs were being captured, where there are 2 males and 4 females, and from there the captive breeding program were started, and it was also successful. The reintroduction of the pygmy hawk, look at these are, and so they actually give a litter of 6 maximum, and because it takes a longer period of time to get matured, and of course their lifespan is too short, just 8 years, 8 to 9 years. Imagine in that year getting all breeding things out would be really difficult. So with those breeding areas, the habitat degradation was the main factor. But in this kind of habitat, a lot of I mean, here if you see those grassland which is close to the water, that is where they live. These are the grass patches, and there the first they introduce the introduction of the new release has been done in 2008. In some patches there were 35, 59, 22, and this year there were 12 pygmy hogs were released into the same different areas. Till date, from the time they have started, which is in 1996, till date there are almost 142 pygmy hawk have been released back into the wild. There are a lot of camera traps have been set at the same time, at the same place, to observe or to monitor their movement. I mean, just leaving is not at all the solution. And at the same time, they have been given around a fence, a bigger fence, where there is a sustainable ecosystem is there, and how they are like moving into the wild. For that, many local NGOs as also hold the hand with the government and other bigger organizations to look after or to monitor them throughout. And here how the things have been done. And sorry, we don't have any picture of the wild yet, I mean, apart from the camera trap, but the threads and I mean, working with the local people actually managed to, you know, to let them know that no poaching should be done with this, and they also realized. And right now we have near about 300 individuals in the wild who are living, and let me tell you, it's the world population I'm telling, not only in India. So hopefully someday with this breeding projects, we will be able to find few more beautiful tiny hogs roaming in the forest. Okay, I haven't seen them in the wild yet. I hope to see them once. Okay, so with that, oh my God, we are running out of time. So here is another frog, which is critically endangered. It is as tiny as your thumbnail, the human thumbnail. You can imagine how small that could be. And this is one of the endemic species of frog, which is found only in India, and that is also restricted to a certain place, which is where you see the black dot. Apart from this area, you don't get to see it anywhere. And it is also a high altitude frog, which almost lives around 2,695-meter height, the highest peak of Western Ghat, which is the Indian Peninsula side, one of the another biodiversity hotspot of India. And going a little faster, and here is how the habitat looks like. So they are actually live in the grassland, mostly in the thick grassland, and they are ground dweller, and they prefer in the micro habitat of the chrysopogon or chrysopogon, however you pronounce it, the grass clamp in the marshy and the swampy montane grassland ecosystem. So it's very unique on that. To let you know how the grass looks like, so this is the elephant and the grass reaches out here, and the grass looks like this, and in between the habitat more or less looks like that. This place I went during this monsoon, and here inside this grass we have been searching for this tiny beautiful species of this bush frog, and they are very unique than the rest of their species because how they look like, of this all glandular body how the bush frog has. And they are tiny, and the current population size is less than 300. And another thing, let me add you, where they stay, generally we don't get to see amphibian at a very high altitude because of the cold, because the temperature out here is near about, sometimes comes down to 16 to 19 degrees centigrade, which is much colder for this species. And they are surviving there. I mean, my hand got froze almost because it was raining and windy. I couldn't, but these fellows were like calling because monsoon is the breeding time for them, and they have to make their best to bring their next generation. So I was so lucky to find a few of the individual, and I could see the egg out here, see the jelly thing here. These are the eggs. And being a bush frog, they don't go through the tadpole stage. They grow, like they develop into a froglet from the egg itself. And from there, I hope someday, because they are the climate change, the pollution, and they are very restricted to that area. So the declining population is very threatening for them. Imagine a tiny frog like this, only 300, how much effort they are, or how much they are fighting to be existed in the world. This is one of the threatened species in the world of amphibians. And to the next one I would bring is the great Indian bastards. They are critically endangered, and they are restricted to this area. Initially, their habitat, I mean, they live in a habitat which was distributed throughout the Western India as well as in Pakistan. But because of all the declining population, because of a lot of factors, they are restricted to this area and few patches in Pakistan. The largest population we found in Rajasthan, where Rajasthan, let me remind you, where the Ranthambore National Park is there, where we, the NHA, lead the group for the summer, you know, the photographic tour in this same state as well. So here they are pretty tall, like 4 feet tall bird, and only left around 200 individuals in the wild. And that is happening because of course, habitat loss is there, and there are other factors. And of course, the female lay only one egg in a year, and the chick always stay with the mother until the next breeding season comes. So the factors which are declining is this. The electric wire, of course, they get electrified. The stray dogs, they start hunting on it. Their habitat loss over here, and of course the windmill, they get hit and they die. And this has been happening since many years, unless people have noticed, like from 1969 to 2011, the population declined from 1260 to 12, so 250 individual. Imagine, almost 90% of decline got highlighted with an objective of conservation to the remaining population. Like otherwise, there were no option to save this great Indian bastards. And the state has come up with the project in 2013, in June 2013. And with the conservation project, of course, involving the local community was the biggest factor, and making it is already turned as a protected area for the in the desert national park. And of course, in the national park, no one can enter. But to give the sustainable livelihood, they have started the eco development tourism in those areas, so that people are coming up as a guide, as a host. They are becoming birders to help the people who are visiting, to show them the bird from a distance without interrupting into the habitat. So that's how this were conserving. At the same time, this bird has been brought under the umbrella of Wildlife Protection Act, which is in the Indian law constitution for wildlife. But yes, all were highlighted, and they have been trying to push through the conservation effort out here. And of course, tourism becomes a big part to all these areas, because the more people come, the people would understand the importance of the species, and local people will definitely give that effort to save them. And yes, so intense patrolling, intelligence network, habitat protection, and continuous monitoring has made this 200 population. Hopefully, if everything continues like this, maybe it will take another 10-20 years where we would see at least increase in 50 numbers in the population of this great Indian bastards. But with that, I tried to bring, but yeah, I should have understood that too short time. But there are too many other animals I can't even accommodate, which is the Asiatic lion, which is only living like 674 in the current population. And there are only 237 hangulets, which is the Kashmir stag, the lion-tailed macaque, the greater adjutant stork, and the hula gibbon, the only ape we found in India. And of course, we get to see them during our Grand India trip to Kaziranga National Park. So these all are facing a huge threat, and a lot of conservation efforts are happening, but it's all, we all should join, hand together to bring back all the species from this critically endangered to a proper environment or ecosystem where they can thrive freely with us. Thank you so much for listening and for hanging on. Thank you so much. I know, Sunny, I know I really took a lot of time, but if I can manage to give few answers.
It was well worth it. And I think we'll squeeze in a couple questions. We'll start with a fun one. You showed a picture of a woman rubbing the neck of one of the turtles. Is this common, and do they enjoy it? Or can you talk a little bit more about what you captured in that image?
No, that actually happened in Bangladesh. You see that old lady right there. So that was her pet. We had to make her understand that we need a female to breed so that we can get the wild population come back. So maybe that's the reason why. Yeah, she was not only holding, she was crying badly. It was so bad to get the turtle back from her.
Oh.
because yeah, but we had to because we didn't have female and we needed egg.
Oh.
So yeah,
Fascinating.
that's the reason. Yeah.
So the affection was more for her than even the turtle, probably.
Oh yes,
Yeah.
yes, maybe.
Okay, one more quick one. The turtle species, if they're to be revived with so few numbers, will they be genetically viable, or do you have a sense of, how likely it is that you could revive the two turtle species?
So what has happened is during as I mentioned that in Chennai, in southern part of India, there were two female as well. So from Vienna Zoo, there was one male. So from Vienna Zoo, one male has been flown to those Madras Crocodile Bank, and they have been breeding out there as well. Then it is the mixed match of the hatchlings when they are breeding. But yeah, of course, there could be some genetic issues, but till date, we haven't come across any,
Mhm.
thankfully.
Good, good. Well, thanks again. You always bring us such interesting topics. I'll turn it back to you for some quick closing comments.
Oh, thank you. Thank you so much for joining in today. But I could understand I had to go really fast, and but I hope at least I could reach out with few points to all of you. And thank you so much. And thank you so much, Sunny, for hosting tonight. I mean, today. Have a great day, all of you. Thank you.
It's always a pleasure. I want to thank everybody who joined us. Please join us again tomorrow for our next Daily Dose of Nature. You can check out this week's lineup, including registration links on our website at nathab.com/webinars. We did record today's presentation, and we will have the replay available on our website soon. With that, I will conclude the webinar. Goodbye, everyone.